On May 3, 1944, deep in the North Atlantic, 340 miles east of St. John's, Newfoundland, the USS Donaldson, a 1,400-ton cannon-class destroyer escort, was part of a massive Allied convoy. This convoy included 36 merchant vessels, 10 aviation fuel tankers, and 4 troop ships carrying 12,000 soldiers bound for Europe. The ship stretched across 12 square miles of ocean, cruising at 9 knots in tight formation, vulnerable to hidden threats lurking beneath the waves. Below the surface, a German U-boat was hunting. For over 40 minutes, it had remained undetected by traditional sonar systems. Yet in the sonar room of the Donaldson, Petty Officer Third Class Donald Merrick was listening differently. A farm boy from Nebraska, Merrick had no formal engineering background. Instead, he brought an uncanny ear for sound, honed through years of listening to agricultural machinery and the subtle signs of the weather on the plains. Where others heard static or ghost echoes, Merrick detected something unusual, a rhythmic metallic ping. It was faint and intermittent, almost lost in the noise of the Atlantic. But to him it was the unmistakable signature of a mechanical fault, a rusty bolt rattling loose, likely along the U-boat's propeller shaft. Most operators would have dismissed the anomaly. Merrick recognized it as the sound of vulnerability. Despite his humble origins and lack of formal training, Merrick had an almost musical ability to parse the layers of acoustic signals. He understood that this rusty bolt wasn't just noise, it was the enemy unknowingly broadcasting its position. The implications were immediate and profound. Merrick took his findings to the ship's captain, Lieutenant Commander William Hartford. Hartford had been reviewing enemy submarine tactics obsessively. The Germans had begun evading detection by exploiting the thermocline, layers of water with sharp temperature differences that distorted sonar waves. U-boats were moving slowly beneath this layer, hiding in silence. Traditional sonar methods, based on bouncing sound off hulls or listening for propeller cavitation, were becoming ineffective. Merrick's insight offered a breakthrough. The faulty bearing revealed by the rusty bolt created a unique acoustic signature. Although the ship lacked technology for acoustic triangulation, Hartford took the bold step of trusting Merrick. He ordered the sonar team to map the frequency bands and variations of the anomaly. Targeting officers then developed a firing solution using this acoustic fingerprint rather than conventional sonar range finding. This decision defied Navy doctrine. Acoustic targeting was still considered theoretical, something for seminars, not real combat. But Hartford chose to act on intuition and innovation rather than institutional rules. The Donaldson maneuvered based on Merrick's acoustic map, and when the U-boat came within range, it launched its Hedgehog mortars. At precisely 3:47 a.m., the forward-firing Hedgehog mortars released 24 projectiles in a calculated spread. The ocean lit up with underwater detonations. At 220 feet below, one of the charges struck the U-boat directly on the starboard side, right where the damage shaft connected to the pressure hull. The force of the blast tore the submarine apart in seconds. All 52 crew members aboard U-1107, including its captain, Hans Dietrich, died instantly. The convoy above continued undisturbed, unaware that a deadly threat had been neutralized. To the outside world, it was just another sonar contact, resolved quietly. But this was no ordinary kill. It marked the first time an enemy submarine had been located and destroyed using purely acoustic targeting methods. The ramifications rippled quickly through the Atlantic Fleet. Within weeks, acoustic targeting based on Merrick's technique was implemented across multiple ships. The USS England, a sister ship to the Donaldson, used similar methods to sink U-546 off the coast of Iceland just weeks later. Other U-boats followed, U-717, U-994, U-616, U-232, each one destroyed with what now seemed surgical precision. The Germans were stunned. Their stealth technology had been designed with the assumption that perfect engineering and silence beneath the thermocline would guarantee safety. They were wrong. What they hadn't anticipated was that mechanical perfection was impossible under war conditions. Months at sea, saltwater corrosion, and maintenance delays inevitably introduced flaws. These imperfections, once considered harmless, were now being weaponized. Merrick had recognized that reality intuitively. German analysts believed the Americans had developed a new form of underwater radar. In truth, the edge came from listening, carefully, attentively, and differently. The Navy began searching for more operators like Merrick. They issued new recruiting guidelines, emphasizing backgrounds in music, agriculture, and occupations requiring acute auditory skills. The Sonar School in Boston was restructured around his methods. Instead of focusing solely on electromagnetic theory, it now incorporated intuition-based training, pattern recognition, and the ability to detect what Merrick called the space between sounds. Commanders were instructed to trust enlisted operators who heard things differently. Doctrine began to shift. The story of Merrick spread unofficially, shared in mess halls, and passed between ships during refueling. His name appeared in requests for transfers. Sailors wanted to learn from him. Yet Merrick remained modest, uninterested in recognition. He simply said he had done what he knew how to do: listen. By the end of the war, Merrick's techniques had led to the confirmed destruction of 47 German submarines, 34 of which were directly linked to acoustic targeting variants based on his original method. The Donaldson, once an unremarkable escort vessel, became one of the most feared submarine hunters in the Atlantic Fleet. Responsible for 6 confirmed U-boat kills, Captain Hartford, later promoted to admiral, credited his career advancement to the decision to trust Merrick's instincts over traditional training. After the war, Merrick declined further military advancement. He returned to Nebraska, married Ruth Anderson, resumed farming, and rarely spoke of his wartime achievements. His neighbors knew he had served on a destroyer escort, but few knew the scale of his contribution. In a rare interview in 1982, Merrick explained the discovery in plain language. The sound was always there. The Germans were always broadcasting their position. They just didn't know they were doing it. I just listened. Post-war analysis of captured U-boats confirmed Merrick's theory. Even the best German acoustic engineers couldn't account for how small flaws in machinery could create distinct, traceable sounds. Their strategy had depended on perfection, a concept Merrick had instinctively understood to be impossible. In that vulnerability lay the Allies' tactical advantage. The final patrol of the Donaldson took place in August 1945, as it escorted wounded servicemen to Pearl Harbor. There were no submarine sightings, no further battles. The war was ending, but the sonar team remained vigilant, trained now in the method that had changed the course of the Atlantic campaign. By then, even the Germans had abandoned stealth submarines surfaced in surrender. The age of acoustic invisibility was over. The story of the rusty bolt and the man who heard it remains classified in many official accounts. Yet within naval circles, Donald Merrick is remembered as one of the most influential figures in anti-submarine warfare. His contribution didn't come from technology or rank, but from an ability to hear what others could not, and from a captain who dared to listen. In the end, this story offers a profound lesson that innovation can come from the most unlikely sources, and that real breakthroughs often lie not in invention but in perception. The Atlantic battle turned not on firepower but on a single act of attention. Donald Merrick didn't invent acoustic warfare. He simply listened, and because someone trusted what he heard, the balance of power in the ocean changed forever.